Two ghosts sit over this whole record, so let's name them before we start. Bert Jansch, the Scottish folk guitarist who played for people in rooms small enough that they could watch his hands. John Fahey, the American primitive guitarist. Solo acoustic records that sounded like they came from no place and every place at once. Who made records for an audience he'd never meet at all, who'd find him only on vinyl. Heynderickx's second album has to choose which inheritance matters more, which audience she's actually building toward, because you cannot split a career down the middle and keep both halves alive.
Carl Kling mixed it at home, which means the monitoring problem is different. You're not fighting a room you rented, you're fighting the room you know too well, the one that's been kind to you in ways that aren't true anywhere else. That confidence reads. The guitar's sitting in a space that trusts itself.
Y'all and that gap isn't silence, right? It's her figuring out which voice gets to live in the room when you grow up knowing how to make people cry in a sanctuary. And then you pick up a guitar, and the folk world's got its own whole language about what matters. And those two don't talk to each other unless you build the bridge yourself. 6 years between her first record and this one, building that bridge. So when she comes back, it's not like she learned to play better in the gap. It's that she figured out what she was allowed to say first. And the record knows that. It sits in that knowledge like it's the whole thing is just her finally letting both rooms talk at once.
Each tuning's got its own finger-picking shape built into it. She's not carrying one technique across 10 songs. She's solving the problem 10 different ways. That's craft.
Jansch wanted you to feel the other people in the room with you, even when he was alone on stage. Fahey wanted you to forget there was a room at all. Heynderickx is doing something stranger. She's built an ensemble that sounds like a room full of people thinking in unison, which means every instrument has to choose whether it's speaking or listening. And she's rigged it so that choice gets made fresh on every song.
Okay, so that's the thing that's been sitting with me. It's 2 minutes and it doesn't announce itself as the opener. It just sets you down in the middle of the feeling already happening. And I kept wanting her to name it, like just one sentence where she says what the thing is, and she never does. And I realized that was the whole move. Like when you're raised in a space where you say the prayer but you don't explain the prayer, you just live in the shape of it, and that's what this track is doing. It's the shape of the doubt, but never the doubt itself. And I'm not sure I've heard somebody do that in a first track in a long time. Usually they're trying to earn you, and this one just assumes you're already inside it with her.
Guitar sits in the room or it doesn't. Trombone sits in the same mid-range slot a second guitar would. That warm middle band where two instruments start fighting for the same space. So every time Kling doubles down on the acoustic. Foxglove say. The horns getting pushed to color work, sitting round the edges. Flip to Redwoods and he's pulled the trombone forward and the guitar's backing off into texture. One of those choices shapes the record. Both can't be true at once.
Okay, wait, so spit in the sink. That line about the toothpaste and the hair, and she just names it, doesn't flinch, doesn't make it pretty with a metaphor. It's just the small, gross, true thing that happens in a bathroom you share with someone. And I think that's where she's saying something honest about love that the Fahey records never had to say because he was alone in those rooms. And I need that. I need the record to know that intimacy is also the place where you see each other's worst small stuff and stay anyway. And she keeps that precision when she moves to the love songs, which means the love songs actually mean something.
The form is doing the arguing, yes. But form can inherit a hermetic tradition and immediately betray it by letting the world back in, and both of those moves can be structurally identical, which is precisely what makes this a record about choice rather than destiny. He's hearing a vessel that knew how to hold silence. She's hearing someone who learned the vessel and then decided silence wasn't the point anymore. Those aren't the same gesture wearing different clothes. One is evolution. One is the tradition eating its own young out of politeness.
I've listened to Sorry Fahey maybe 47 times this week, y'all. That's not a compliment I give lightly. But here's the thing that keeps me honest. I scored it 62 on Mythic Resonance. That's my own 100-point measure of whether a song feels like it was always supposed to exist, like myth, not just a good verse. And I know that reads low, and I'm sitting here knowing exactly why and not apologizing for it. Because this record isn't trying to be a cathedral, and I'm not going to dock it for building a kitchen table instead. A grandparent's voice on the phone. A kettle, a cat that's still breathing in the next room. That unglamorous proof that someone showed up. And that's what the whole thing is built on, which maybe means I just don't score kitchen tables the way I score cathedrals. And I think that's okay to say out loud, that maybe my ear and this record are measuring different kinds of permanent.
The apology isn't about technique, it's about permission. She's saying thank you for the form, I'm keeping what you built, but I'm moving the furniture out. Whether that's evolution or just good manners depends on whether you think a lineage survives when someone makes it livable.
The room's different on that track. You can hear it in the transient, that first crack of the pick before the note settles into itself. The guitar sits further back. Kling mixed it drier than the rest of the record, more space around it. Whether that was intentional or just the way the session landed, I can't know from listening.
And that's what I want to flag. The 6 years story everyone's running with, like she just went silent, but she didn't. She was in a room with Max Garcia Canover, another folk songwriter. In 2016, making something collaborative, which means she'd already figured out how to share a creative space before her actual debut. I Need to Start a Garden even landed in 2018. So the gap between that and this one isn't 6 years of nothing. It's 6 years of, I don't know, maybe 6 years of figuring out what a solo voice sounds like when it's not the only voice in the room anymore.
Critics landed in that band, high sevens to low eights out of 10. All 5 outlets within a single point of each other, like she'd handed them a key and they'd all found the same room. Which is fine, that's consensus doing its job. But I wonder if the tightness is the record actually working, or if it's 5 outlets agreeing not to ask whether she'd hidden the seams so well nobody wanted to go looking.
The mic's doing half the work, but she's managing what it gives her. There's breath under the vowels now where there wasn't before, and she's not reaching for the top of the phrase like she's got something to prove.
See, this is where I stop worrying about seams. Ian's song. She just names it and sets it down and doesn't dress it up as anything, and I don't know who Ian is, and that's the whole. No, it's exactly because I don't know. She loved somebody enough to put a real name on a real song, and that name does more than any big swelling gesture might could have, because it's true and it's small and it's not asking me to feel it. It just does.
The architecture she's built is genuinely beautiful. I won't pretend otherwise. But I need to ask what's underneath the devotion itself. When she names the record after Fahey, is she saying thank you for the permission to exist in this lineage? Or is she asking permission to do something new inside it? Because those are radically different claims about what a vision is, and the record won't quite tell me which one she's making.
Okay, wait now. Vision doesn't have to look like vision to be vision, and I think you're scoring the inheritance wrong here. She's a Filipino-American woman from Forest Grove who taught herself fingerpicking by ear, came up through a church choir. And when that lineage comes through that body and that geography, it sounds like something nobody else's sounds like. And I don't know why we're pretending it doesn't just, because she's not announcing it, or breaking from it, or whatever the template says she's supposed to do. The label on the bottle's not what I'm tasting.
Small label, close range ear. Damien Jurado, another songwriter on that same little Portland label. Runs quieter than she does, but same principle. They're not looking for the room fillings thing.
The apology collapses the whole thing. Either she's killed her influences or she's still kneeling to them, and the record gets to have it both ways. A committed vision doesn't get to whisper and shout simultaneously. It picks a direction and lives in it, even if that direction is backwards, even if it's wrong. She won't choose, so the record doesn't have to. So I'm left scoring a feeling instead of a position. And that's where I lose the thread entirely.
Okay, wait, but swoop. That closing track, that's her answering you. That's the record saying, here's where I land. And it's not where the first one could have gone, it's not even in the same room. If that's not a committed position, I don't know what commitment looks like to you.
5 months in, we're arguing about whether it lasts. That's not a fight about the record, that's a fight about time, and we don't have it.
Okay, but I'm not saying the engineer's wrong. But there's a difference between a record that doesn't know what it is and a record that knows exactly what it is and decides to tell you quiet. And y'all keep scoring her down for the deciding part, like the choice to stay small is the same thing as not being able to get bigger. There's something happening right now where we're all supposed to be loud about it, supposed to announce it, and a record that just sits there and knows what it is without screaming. That might be the whole thing.
The reason the bridge works is that it no. No, actually. She's right. I was scoring what it refuses to be, not what it commits to. That's a different job entirely, and I wasn't invited to do it.
Swoop is the only track where clings actually let the reverb tail run. Everything else sits tight in the box, but that one, the guitar's suddenly in a room. Whether that was deliberate or just what the tape did that day, the mix holds it.
Okay, so 6 years and she's never said where they went, which is actually the thing I need to sit with. I can't score impermanence in advance. I really can't. So enduring relevance is 64, and that's the honest number. And I love this record right now so hard I might could break. But right now is the only tense that works. And I have to let that be enough even though it terrifies me.
The record doesn't waste a single measure. That's architectural fact, and I scored it accordingly. Denzel's trombone on redwoods, the way those chamber strings know the precise moment to withdraw. What I was turning over, though, was something narrower. Something I got wrong about.
I say the real thing. Generational talent in the making is how you praise someone while reserving the right to be wrong about them later.
She's not over-singing because she doesn't need to. That's the difference between a voice that's learned restraint and one that never needed it.
Yeah, okay, that's the thing right there. She doesn't oversell a single measure, and it makes you feel like you're the one who has to finish the thought. And I've listened to Jerry's song maybe 40 times this week, and I still can't tell you why that track does what it does to me. I just know it sits different. And I need someone to tell me I'm not insane for playing the same 3 minutes over and over like it's going to unlock something.
Rare convergence. Intellect and feeling arriving in the same measure, neither apologizing for the other. Finger-picking as argument, not ornament. The lineage is present. Jansh Fahi. But worn lightly, not worn as proof. A record that knows what it is. The emotional claim, this kind of completeness, usually comes later. That she's here now is the unsettling part. Still ahead of herself. 84.
The spread's 14 because we're not arguing about whether the finger picking holds. He'd stake his name on it, she'd stake her heart, and I watched both of them arrive at the same landing from different altitudes. What we're actually dividing on is permission. She heard Seed of a Seed asking whose permission mattered in a title like that, and I spent the first listen assuming it was hers, the artist's, asking it of us, which is precisely the wrong direction, and now I'm sitting with what that reversal means for how newly a record like this gets to arrive.
The fingerpicking's got a logic to it. Each tuning pulls a different right-hand shape out, and she's not fighting it, she's letting it lead. That's what gets the 86. Whether it holds in 5 years when the record's had time to settle or crack, I won't know till then. Can't score what hasn't weathered yet.
Okay, so mouth of a flower. It's doing something I can't quite pin. There's this feeling like you're opening a window you didn't know you were allowed to open, and the lyric just cracks it sideways, And you're standing there with the cold coming in and you don't close it because closing it now would be worse than whatever's outside. That's a 95. That's precision in not explaining itself.
The clustering made me defensive at first. That tight little band out of 10 felt like everyone had quietly agreed the record was competent without being transformative, which is how you build consensus around something that doesn't quite demand anything of you. But I've sat with it longer, and I'm not certain now whether that tightness is a failure of critical nerve, or whether the record is simply that structurally coherent, that resistant to the outlier argument. Still skeptical, less so than I was.
One voice, one instrument, nowhere to hide the hands. Sun House. Delta blues, raw voice, no fingerpicking, none of what Haley's doing. Didn't have any of that. Still the same job. The guitar won't let you lie about what you felt when you played it.
There's a thing when you grow up with melody in a room where it's supposed to mean something, where the singing is the prayer and the prayer is the whole point. And then you spend 20 years learning to talk about music like it's a puzzle to solve, and then you hear someone do both at once, and you go quiet. That's what I keep hearing in there. Not confusion about whether she's a folk musician or a songwriter, or whatever we're supposed to call it. Just someone who learned that a melody can carry what words can't, and she's still doing that, and the play count keeps climbing because everybody else hears it too.
The record won't stop moving long enough to be finished with itself. And I don't know if that's the whole point, or if it's still deciding whether it agrees with us. Ask me in 3 years whether Sorry Fahey was a door closing or a door left open, because right now it's both, and she's too restless to pick one. Which fine. The engineer's been patient about exactly that for the last 40 minutes, and I'm beginning to think he's right, which is its own small humiliation.